Welcome, everyone. Today's conversation is one of my favorites with one of my personal mentors, Joan Borysenko. Thank you, Dr. Joan Borysenko. Thank you so much for being here
Oh, you're
today.
so welcome. I'm excited to be with you.
Thank you. Me too. I think for today, I'm going to start over. You want me to look up there? Okay. Can you cut that all out? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Joan.
And don't
Okay.
worry,
Okay.
I understand tech woes all too well.
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay. Here we go. Welcome, friends, to today's conversation. And I'm so honored to sit with someone whose work has touched countless lives, including my own, Dr. Joan Borysenko. Welcome, Joan, to our podcast today.
Hi, sweetheart. It's so good to be with you. I'm so happy to see you after many years.
Many years. Thank you so much for joining us. I think I'll introduce you and then we'll get flowing in our conversation. Okay. So, Joan is a pioneering voice in the field of mind body medicine. She's a scientist, an author, a psychologist, and a mystic whose writings have guided generations of seekers to bring the sacred into everyday life. From her groundbreaking work in integrative medicine at Harvard to her books that I personally love, some of them are A Woman's Journey to God, which is one of my favorites, Minding the Body, Mending the Mind, Fire in the Soul, Ways of the Mystic, and also one of my favorites, Your Soul's Compass. Joan has been reminding us for years that spirituality is not something we reach outside of ourselves for. It's woven into our stories and the way that we live, even our breath. So, in this conversation, we're going to explore what it means to live soul first, how to how to become an everyday mystic. That's such a hot topic right now, I feel. It's so important. And how to bring the divine in the smallest moments. How can we honor the stories that we've carried from our ancestors in our DNA and our own lives and still walk in the light and still really walk in our soul stories? So, Joan, I'm so grateful to have you. And I would love to tell you a little story before we start. First of all, Joan and I go way back, and Joan, you're not aware of this, but it was 1999. I had just gotten married to my husband, and I was searching. I had just found Judaism. I didn't really grow up with it, and I had just kind of opened myself to what is Jewish mysticism? What is this world of Jewish life? And most importantly, I had this deep spiritual awakening of God. Like, what is this idea of God? And I went into my mom's study, and she was a seeker at the time, and out fell your book off the shelf, which was a woman's journey to God.
Ah.
And from then on, we've been dear friends, and you didn't even know this. But you were definitely my mentor, and especially my mother's of blessed memory. And
Mm.
yesterday was her yahrzeit, her day of death, and I just want to honor my mother and kind of bring her in today. And I also would love to honor our dear friend Michelle Tamron
Yes,
and bring her in. She is the reason why I know you personally.
exactly. That brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah, so I feel like it's really divine that we speak today after all these years and I just want to dive into what what have you been doing? What are you up to? And most importantly, there's something that you wrote on your website and I would love for you to elaborate just this one sentence that grabbed me. In the space where our souls meet, something holy awakens. The divine beloved comes to remind us of the light that we truly are. Can you just talk about that for a second and we'll dive in?
I can because I think you opened the tab called spiritual mentoring. And
Mhm.
let me talk about that and then that light from within. So I am about to be 80 years old. And to paraphrase my friend and colleague, Tirza Firestone, I'm an ancestor in training. So
Oh.
it's the phase of life in Eastern belief systems when, the householder years are over, the career is over, although the householder years still go on for me. But
Mhm.
the career of traveling around, I used to travel almost 50 times a year
Wow.
to lecture in various places all around the world. After the pandemic, that was over, and I started to teach online. And then I've always had a small practice in spiritual mentoring, really companioning people on the path, no matter where they are. And one of my very favorite teachers is the late John O'Donohue, who was, really what can I say? He was such a shiny soul. He comes from the Celtic tradition, and he wrote a beautiful book called Anam Cara. And in Celtic, an Anam Cara is a soul friend. And what happens when you sit with a person who really is meeting you soul to soul instead of role to role, instead of like, oh, I'm the therapist, you're the client, I'm the mentor, you're the mentee. But when we simply meet as souls, what happens is between us, spirit has a place to come. And
Mhm.
that's often called the spirit of the third that arises between us. And that spirit really is luminous. It's light because, as we all know, at least conceptually, everything comes originally from light, and that light is transduced into form. And I've, we all have lots of stories, but for me, the light and the reason why I use that quote about light. Oh, I
Mhm.
didn't use a quote, I made it up.
Right.
The reason why I put it in that section of my website is that my own daily practice, um, when I go to sleep at night, is to go back into the light that I experienced when my mother died. And so it's your mother's, her yahrzeit was yesterday. Um, and my mother made her passage back to the spirit realm in 1988. So that's been a long time passing. And her story continues to live in me. And I'm going to try to tell it in like 2 minutes or less.
Love to hear
Let's see how I do.
it.
So, my mother actually died in the hospital where I was practicing, one of the Harvard teaching hospitals. At that time, I was running a mind body clinic, and that was for people with cancer or with chronic illness or stress related illness. And it was also the time that the AIDS epidemic had, been really raging in the Boston area for about 6 years since 1982. And I had sat at too many deathbeds of my patients because I'd started a mind body program just for people with AIDS. So here I found myself sitting at my own mother's deathbed in the hospital where I worked. And, the family had said their goodbyes, and it was now late at night, close to 3 in the morning. And my son and I were sitting with my mother. She had lost consciousness maybe 6 or 7 hours previously, and so this was the final part of the vigil, and I was sitting there, uh, meditating, and all of a sudden, I had a vision, and a vision, it feels very different than a dream, even from a lucid dream, I had an immediate sense of like a huge shift, and I felt like, "Oh my god, I have I'm in some other reality." But a reality that's much more real than this one. It's
Mhm.
sort of like waking up from Plato's cave, and you
Mm.
think here, I've been mistaking these shadows for what's real, and then you come out of the cave, and I was having a vision, and in the vision, speaking of mothers, I didn't imagine, I experienced being a mother who was giving birth, but I was simultaneously one consciousness, both in mother and child. And because I was awake in this realm, witnessing what was going on in that realm, immediately I thought to myself, wow, it's like God is a case of multiple personality disorder. It's like you in both people at once. That spirit is in all people at once. But it wasn't, I mean, it's something maybe we think about intellectually, abstractly, but this was an embodied somatic knowing. And
Wow.
it
Experience.
it made me laugh. I thought, now isn't this amazing?
Mhm.
And I'll shortcut through all of the amazing experiences of mother and baby. But as the baby was born, my consciousness just shifted into that. And the baby came out through the long, dark tunnel and into the light. And it was the divine light, which is ineffable. Anyone who's had a near death experience or any of the mystics that you read from any tradition will all say the same thing. There are no words that you can describe for this light. It's so bright, but the brightness is so comforting. It's not like a blinding light.
Mhm.
It's and the light, oh my God, it's pure mercy and unbounded loving kindness. And it's just amazing. And then, I thought to myself, as here, my intellect, I'm still like, hmm, is that God? No, it's not God.
Right.
What is it? And I finally said, and this is all happening in microseconds,
Mhm.
it's a being of light. That's what people often describe it as. And I had the immediate sense of something that had moved me so, both in the Hindu scriptures and the Jewish scriptures. In Judaism, we have that prayer, Eloheinu Shema Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. The soul that God put in me, that soul is pure. And of course, most of our lives, we're not living from that point of view. We're living from the point of view of ego that's always judging. We're not good enough. And then we project that they're not good enough. And somehow that leads to this world of competition and divisiveness and all of that. But all that was gone. So there was a sense of unity with everything. And well, I'm having this whole experience and like revelation upon revelation. Then the being of light creates a series of vignettes, of memories of being with my mother. And, like many people, they have a mother that maybe they love and who loves them dearly, but they don't get along that well. My mother really was the sort of person like, "Don't do that, don't do that. That's terrible, then people won't like you." So, I experienced more criticism, but she was doing it to make me more lovable. But anyhow,
Right.
I saw these interactions with my mother, each one building upon the other, as something that enriched the soul of both of us. at a level that I certainly couldn't have seen at that moment. And I saw what a beautiful dance had actually happened at a soul level. And then after a little bit, the thing had, unspooled, it was over,
Mhm.
and I just opened my eyes in amazement. And when I opened my eyes, the way that I like to tell the story is it was like my vision was half a click off because I could see that everything was made of light and how the form, so I was seeing both light and form, and it was amazing. As I remember our high school chemistry teacher, like, knocking on her desk and saying, "It looks solid, but it isn't. It's all
Mhm.
these molecules and atoms. It's mostly empty space, and the space is light itself." And I'm thinking, actually, she was quite right. So I'm looking across now the now empty shell of my mother because as I came to the vision, the last thought I had was such infinite gratitude, both to the source of life and to my mother.
Mhm.
A sense of she gave birth to my soul in this material realm, and I just gave birth to her soul in the eternal realm. And the circularity of it was so beautiful, the perfection of it.
Yeah.
And so I look across now her, empty body, and there's my son Justin, who was 20 at that time. And Justin is made of light. And when you're seeing light around a person, I realized you see a halo. So there's
Mhm.
my child made of light with a halo of light, and he's weeping, and there are tears running down his face. And honest to God, Ariela, each of those tears emitted rainbows. And so
Wow.
it was something. And he had a look of such wonder.
Mhm.
And I went around the bed, I sat next to him, and he said to me, "Mom," he said, "I had a vision." Never told me the exact contents of the vision, but he said, "I cannot believe the gift your mother gave you." And he said that one person could give their whole life to serve another person. And he said she was a hugely advanced soul, and she took a role in this life much smaller than who she really was. And she did it as an act of service to you because your purpose is to be a teacher of love. And you couldn't have taught it unless you felt you didn't get it. And then you had to learn it. And in resisting her, it enabled you to really learn about love. And then it'd go back into how amazing, how could someone give
Wow.
a whole life like that in service of another person? And he's weeping and I'm weeping
Mhm.
and I'm joking. And I said, all the mistakes I've made as a mother are for the growth of your own soul. Don't forget that. So
Absolutely. Yes.
and then the end of it, I mean, it was so sweet. He grabbed me up by the hands, and this was a time when the Ren and Stimpy cartoon was kind of like big
Uh,
thing, and there was a song, "Happy, Happy, Joy, Joy." He
mhm.
lifted me up, and we danced around the dead body of my mother in the middle of the night singing "Happy, Happy, Joy, Joy." So
That's amazing.
now at night, before I go to bed, the
Mhm.
thing about memories is when you rehearse a spiritual memory, and there's research on this,
Mhm.
comes out of Columbia University. When you when you rerun a spiritual memory
Mhm.
and you remember it all in your body, the feeling of it, the sight of it, the sound of it. I can still remember the smell of the hospital room, the sounds in the distance, where I was, the bed, my mother, Justin. And then I bring back the light and the
Yeah.
love and the light. And if I bring myself there, um, I can go to bed in a beautiful way. And actually, the first the first thing I do when I get into bed, and this
Mhm.
is like such an easy practice for people. Um, you know, I think most of us think and know that gratitude is really good for us.
Right,
Cracks its way through the ego, and
right.
so the soul can have a little space.
Mhm.
And, there's a wonderful book, it's quite old now, called Gratefulness: The Heart of Prayer,
Mhm.
which was written by, gosh, I think he's a Cistercian monk, Brother David Steindl hyphen Rast, and he has a great website called, Gratefulness, because he says instead of gratitude, gratefulness gives you that feeling of a gratefulness and an
Mm.
expansiveness that allows you to go through life offering your best
Mhm.
instead of your most constricted, egoic,
Right,
greed
right.
stuff. So, um, there's a practice I learned from Brother David probably 50 years ago,
Mhm.
and it's so simple. What he said is think back on your day and think back of something that happened today that, is fresh. It's not like giving thanks for things you've given thanks for before, but it's just that the sun came out today after a rainstorm. And I saw, the light reflected in the drops of water and the sense of you can feel the earth just sucking it up and breathing. And he said, go back to something like that, a memory that actually happened during the day, and savor it, relive it with all your senses, the sights, the sounds, the smells, because it all lives in the body. It's embodied.
Right.
And so I do that and I bring back gratitude. And what I will do with my husband Gordon is I'll say, here's my thing,
Uh-huh.
your thing. And then, we both love I love to sing Shlomo Carlebach's version of, the bedtime Shema, where you surround yourself with the 4 archangels and then draw the light of the Shekhinah, the
Course.
divine feminine.
I sang that to my children every single night when they were kids.
Yes, and it's so sweet. There's such a sweetness to it.
Mm,
It's like a
there is.
lullaby that you'd sing to a child. You're
Absolutely.
you're singing it to yourself, and then I focus on the light, and often that's when I fall asleep. And what's wonderful about it, that little bedtime practice, is it's not something you have to drag yourself to or, like, make time for at night when you're so
Right.
tired. It's just sweet. It just takes a minute or 2. And
Yeah.
it's a lot better than rerunning your anxieties.
Absolutely, absolutely. Joan, I wanna go back to your mother's story and the story of her releasing her body and you having this experience. And I feel like I understand now why I reached out to you. I think the most beautiful thing that you said was just this experience of this life is filled with all these different realms, this oneness, this unity, this beautiful light of the soul. And we go through our lives and we struggle, we have to work and we have to work hard and we have all these societal beliefs and these patterns about ourselves that keep us in that loop. And then we have these moments like you had so long ago that I consider they're like threshold moments,
Yes.
where it's like we can't go back. And it's so beautiful that you took that in since 1988, right?
That's right.
That's a long time ago, and you took
Yeah.
that memory and you continued it throughout your life, and it sounds to me like you've lived through that story, that experience.
I have, and then I've appreciated it in different ways as I've grown. And then, your experience and depth of understanding grows. Any story that's precious to you, you begin to see from a multitude of different perspectives. You
Yes,
kind of grow with a story. And,
absolutely.
I think about that story and I think about Kabbalah and the
Mhm,
four worlds, the four trees of life.
mhm.
And it makes sense to me. Uh, in any tradition, they talk about these like different interpenetrating levels of consciousness. And every time I come across something like that, something new about the story tickles me. And I think, ah, yes, I have all those levels. There's this level of just pure unity, consciousness, the Ein Sof, the endless light that's
Yeah.
just beginning to manifest its various qualities and virtues. Then there's the intellectual part. There I am. I'm in this totally different archetypal realm, but my intellect is not quiet. It's right away saying, wonder what that being is like. Trying to find a word for the things there are no words for, because that's what intellect does. That's how it crystallizes into form, which is both good and, of course, limiting.
Mhm,
Then there's the emotional archetypal realm and where I found myself at that moment. And then like, whoa, back in the realm of the present moment of
mhm,
manifest reality,
mhm.
feeling the sweetness of the divine feminine. Such a sweetness. It's like being visited by the great mother.
And while you're talking, I see these 4 levels of the soul and, the spirit, the earthly part of us, the mind, the energy, and it's almost like it feels like that all of that information, that oneness, that light from God came down into your earthly consciousness,
It did. And
helped you just expand.
it's such a gift. And my son did say to me, boy, he said, this is Grandma Lily. My mother's name was Lily, and Grandma Lily's last gift.
Mhm.
She's holding open the door to eternity so we can have a glimpse. You
Yes.
know what was interesting? My old friend, oh gosh, the one who invented the near-death experience field, Raymond Moody, the psychiatrist who wrote a number of books,
Mhm.
wrote a book about what's called shared death experiences. Because Justin and I both shared what was basically a near-death experience, except we weren't dying. Somebody
Right.
else was. So we shared that with my mother, but it's very rare, I think, for 2 people to
Yeah.
share the death experience of one. And Raymond Moody heard the story, and he did call his book about the shared death experience, Glimpses of Eternity. And,
Mm,
so I think that was my mother's last gift,
absolutely.
because people of all the stories I tell, and I have many, many,
Mhm.
that's my favorite, and it's other people's many people's favorite story because it's also a story of forgiveness. When we get beyond the ego level and
Yeah.
we realize something much greater was happening, and then we focus on what actually did I learn from this? Because, I used to talk quite a lot about how we turn our wounds into wisdom, because
Mhm.
often the life purpose we have grows out of a certain wound we have.
Right.
And, we all think about things differently. But if I can hold my various woundedness as a gift of some sort that allows me to think more deeply, to love more deeply, and to serve, a little better, well,
Right.
that's worth it. And you can call it a Pollyanna point of view, but it isn't. I think it's a very practical point of view to say, what can we do practically in this difficult world to make it a better place while holding a higher perspective that holds us together so we don't lose our center and fall apart and become part of the chaos. Because in these times, boy, we have to be able to hold the center.
I love the idea of taking the stories, the wounds, the things that we came here for our soul to learn. And I often ask the question of when are we willing to not live through the eyes of that story anymore? How
Right.
can we step into the eyes of the soul, the eyes of the divine every day? And I do think, going back to your threshold moment, I do think that we all have these moments where we have this choice, right? Like the choice of which way will I walk now?
Mm,
Which way will I turn? Will I allow this to crumble me? Or will I allow and continue my story? Or will I walk with unity and oneness in this crazy, chaotic world that I'm living in? Um, and something I'm going to just interject because it's so interesting. This past summer, I was honored to walk my husband's stepfather to the other side.
ah,
And it was a very similar it was like this the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced to
mm,
see the soul behind his eyes get brighter and bigger and more expansive, and to watch his body leave and let go and get smaller and die. And it was different than the experience you had, but it was like I was touched by the hand of God, and there
yes,
was like, what I felt was there's no turning back from this moment that you just had. You witnessed the soul, and now
yes.
what will you do with this gift? And it's such a profound moment of choice. And I would love for you to talk about that choice.
Well, it is a profound moment because we have, I think, big threshold moments and smaller moments when, the world parts and then we're really present. It's beautiful. And suddenly we feel the peace, we feel the joy, we feel the gratitude, we feel the equanimity. And often we don't pause enough to let those moments sink in, and then we just fall asleep again. And
Right.
life is like that, like, oh, I feel the aliveness, I feel the unity, here I am. Oh my God, look at the bills. And then,
Right.
so I think we often wake up in everyday life in fits and starts. There's a very old anecdote when someone asked, the question of a monk, like, what do you do up there in the monastery all day? And the monk said, we fall and get up again. We
Mhm.
fall and get up again. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's really it. So what I think is important is to realize that you're very fortunate when you have one of these beautiful experiences like you had with your husband's stepfather, or I had with my mother. And that's a particular grace. We don't all get it, but we
Yeah.
all get the little moments all
Yeah.
throughout the day. And if you do stop and savor those, that's another word for mindfulness. and how we guard our attention because we live in an attention economy where there's like 1,000 different feeds trying to grab us at any moment. And if you don't stop to find the center, which to be present, like present in a conversation, present to a child, present to a friend, where you really listen,
Mhm.
where you're really there for each other, where you have nothing to prove, no point to make. You're
Right,
just there.
right.
If we just start to focus on, oh, these are available to us at any time, they're
Yes.
there. And I think it's so important because otherwise we're just like torn apart by the fragmentation of our own attention, which is really one of the most precious things we have. There was a study done, it must be 15 years ago already, where the experimenters gave, you know, gave, texts or to people on their iPhone, and they asked a question, what are you trying to be doing at this moment? And then, "What are you doing?" And, like, more than 50% people were distracted from what they wanted to be doing, and the more people felt distracted, the less happy and the more anxious they felt. And so we think about it. My God, we're so distracted.
Mhm.
People are so anxious. And when you're anxious, it affects your whole body. There's the mind body thing.
Right.
And it affects your capacity to pay attention because anxiety and panic, which a lot of people are panicked right now, actually inhibits the activity of the frontal cortex of the brain, which is what allows you to make sense of things and to be present and to make, to make wise choices. And so when people say, oh, things are so terrible and I'm helpless, I can't, you're not helpless. The more of us keep our center, the more, because everything is in fact made of energy, we actually affect that energetic. It
Right.
was the Nobel Prize winning physicist Ilya Prigogine, who didn't die that long ago, like within the last, I don't know, maybe 20 years. Um, Ilya Prigogine won the Nobel Prize for something he called the theory of dissipative structures.
Mhm.
And it was when things fall apart, then the energy that's released from all those things falling apart is free to reconfigure at a higher level. And
Mhm.
what allows it to do that, another kind of paraphrase from him, is that the tiniest little islands of coherence can organize a sea of chaos. And
Yeah.
so I think we all need to be our own little islands of coherence because, the fact is that human beings were social animals.
Right.
Our nervous systems co regulate. If
Right.
you're anxious, like I get anxious.
Mhm.
So if we can hold our center and radiate a little bit of peace,
Mhm.
that entrains more people in peace, and it
Right.
calms down the field. And it's not airy fairy, it's actually physics. So,
It's so true to consciously, like, I see it as like a sea of chaos, so anxiety feeds off of each other. And if we can be mindful and really pay attention to the body, mind, soul connection, then we have the ability to change the environment around us. And it is a deep practice, and I think sometimes we're addicted to the inattention, the it's easier to go unconscious in this world that we live in, especially with all the chaos and all the gadgets that we have to go unconscious. So in this type of world, it's easy to go unconscious. It's easier to turn off than turn on and
It is.
turn inward. And I think it's so important to it's not woo-woo, it's the raising of your consciousness, it's the raising of your frequency, and it feels better in your body.
Oh,
Um,
it's much better.
yes, it does, and in Judaism and Kabbalah, we talk about the idea that your vessel that you live in wants to inhabit your soul more and more. And if
Yeah.
we can change our mind and open to that soul to come in deeper, we then are healthier and we're more alive and we live longer and we're more conscious. It's amazing how that it's kind of agreeing to allow it in.
Well, exactly. So you actually have to make an intention and an aim and
Mhm.
do something. So
Right.
for me, I think for many of us, um, like music and nature are
Yeah.
things all around the world in every culture. When they say what relieves stress, people say music and nature.
Mhm.
So to make a point of going outside and being in nature, even if you live in the city, to go find a park, go find some air, go find some earth. And then music. I in the morning, my husband and I have a practice, which we do most mornings, not every morning because all kinds of stuff happens. We all know that.
Right.
But we make an aim for most mornings. We sit in a sunroom and we live out in nature. It's beautiful. We live on a mountain by a river. And so we go into our sunroom and we're right out in the mountains sitting there. And then we do a brief practice that we put together ourselves over time, added to it. And, we begin with a Jewish moda ani, thanks, thanks, my soul's returned to my body. How
Right.
cool
Right.
is this? Sort of reflecting back, this is great. I'm still
Right.
in this realm. My soul is growing. And so that, takes what, 30 seconds to
Uh-huh.
chant that. And then we play the Cat Stevens, song, "Morning Has Broken," which
Mhm.
is about the restoration of the world on a new day. It's really very, very beautiful. Then we'll often say the Sufi invocation toward the One, um, the the harmony of love and beauty, the only being, that's the union of all the enlightened souls that form the embodiment of the master. Depending, then we go through um there's a Jewish prayer which just says like, wow, this is so cool. If one vessel didn't work, the whole
Yeah.
thing would go kaput. What is this incredible wisdom that made our
Right.
body so perfectly? And
Right.
give thanks for our own health and healing. And if
Mhm.
we have time, then that's when we pray for other people who
Mhm.
also need health and healing at that moment. And then we address fear. It's like, if I was connected to the eternal one, I wouldn't have any fear. Then we play David Zeller's,
Oh.
song "Narrow Bridge,"
Uh-huh.
"Fear not to fear at all."
I know it well.
Yes, yes, we play that and we're singing with it, we're chanting with it, all of these things. We're singing because the feeling of chant in your own body
Mm.
is its own somatic experience. It's very healing. It's like people healing for trauma. Humming is
Yes.
wonderful. But if you're actually humming something where the melody is beautiful and you're chanting in one of the original languages, which have numerical and vibrational significance. For example, Sanskrit
Mhm.
or Latin or Hebrew. These languages, everything's made of mathematics, music, mathematics, the whole vibratory field of creation is that's the code
Right.
of creation itself. And like, oh my God, I'm singing that code in my own body and I'm loving it and I feel it. And so we do that. And then we go through just a short blessing for all the beings in the world, and
Wow.
then we uh, chant a couple of things. I don't know if you ever came across, there's an album by a man whose name is Richard Gans, called Shamantra, and
Yeah,
he's got the Elohai Neshama, or the call and response chant.
I know it well.
Love it. So we use that.
Nice.
Then we have some Israeli friends who live in Byron Bay,
Mm,
Australia, that
mm.
were part of originally a very popular band in Israel called Sheva, which is,
Oh,
means seven in both Arabic and
yes, I
Hebrew.
know.
And so a couple of them live in Byron Bay, and one of them, Amir Pace, really has some great music. And
Wow.
uh, those some of those folks also lived for years in a Hindu ashram with a guru Papaji. And so
Uh-huh.
there's one of the chants of Amir's, which is called "Blessed to Chant," and it's both Hebrew and a little Sanskrit, different way of addressing the divine. So we play that. And
Right.
then if we're open to another 10 minutes at that time, we listen to and chant the Gayatri mantra with
Mhm.
Deva Premal. And the
Uh-huh.
Gayatri mantra is really um, a deep intention to wake up to the light, to
Mhm.
say, please illumine my intellect so I wake up to the light. Every syllable of that is so meaningful.
Wow.
And that, no matter if we have to do part of that practice and finish in 15 minutes,
Right.
we can do the whole thing and sit 45 minutes. The thing about it is you start the day in the sense of elevated awareness,
Yeah.
presence, and peace. And then, the mind wandering, as I said, that makes people unhappy.
Yeah.
If you chant in the morning and you love the chant, you will find yourself all through the day, all of a sudden, the chant will start up in you, and it's taken up that extra track of mind that used to be full of anxiety,
Right.
worry, and you find yourself that it actually focuses attention. So
Go ahead.
but there are doggies. I have to pay attention. See, they're paying attention. They're alerted to something in the environment. So we have to be like our doggies.
Right. Right. I love your morning practice. It reminds me a lot of my own with a lot of the similar singers.
Yeah.
Sheva has been something that I adopted when I lived in Israel, probably when I was about 30 years old, and I still sing it there's one song, Shir Hamalot, and the way that they sing it is just it speaks to my soul. So
Oh, that's wonderful. Could you send me the link to that or the
I
MP3?
will.
Oh,
Yes, I have it. I'll send it to you. Yes. And Robert Zeller, I studied with him of blessed memory in Israel when I lived there when I was 30. And just the practice of sound is so important and so simple. We think we need something so deep and so different. And this morning I sat and I had busy morning with some of the kids, and I just sat there and I sang Ein Od Milvado over and over again, which there is nothing like the divine. There's nothing other than the divine. And
Yeah.
that chanting, that practice of the voice,
Yes.
and just sitting there and realizing amongst the dog who needs a walk, the cats who need to be fed, the work, the kids. I still have 2 kids at home, 2 kids in college, and it's like that you are so correct because I will pick it up in the middle of the day.
Yes.
We'll find that, we start to wander and then the songs come back in.
Exactly.
And for me, music and dancing has always been something that God willing, I'll be 80 years old and I'll be dancing around my house still.
Hey.
So I thank you, Joan, for I could talk to you for hours. I could go on and on, but I don't want to keep you forever. But I just want to say that I think that your wisdom transcends time. The wisdom that you've been gifted, and I think that there's many of us, but not many of us are willing to use our voice to be that kind of leader and mentor to say that, "No, there's more. There's
Mhm.
more here. It's not what you see is what you get. There's
Right.
so much more." And the fact that you do that and you continue to do that is such a gift to us, to all of us. And I mean, I haven't seen you in, I don't know, 15 years, but you were my opening to spirituality and to Judaism and to God. And I feel like I feel so blessed to be able to listen to your wisdom so many years later. And I just feel like all of our people on the other side are around us and we're just
That's
sitting in this beautiful circle. I feel like I've kind of been entranced, like, in this different field of consciousness for the last hour since we've been talking, and I think that you have that effect on us, and I think it's such a gift that you've given to the world.
well, thank you. As I always think, it's I want to be an opening through which something greater can come. So if I have done that, then I've done my purpose. And what fun! What fun! Don't you feel alive? Isn't it fun to be in spirit? That's the thing.
Absolutely.
It's like it's not something dry. It's the aliveness.
It's
That's
rich.
another Zeller song, the aliveness, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I know that well too. Um, Joan, tell us, what are you doing now? Are you working still? Are you mentoring? Are you writing?
Yes, I work still, and this time of life is a balance because you get slower. It's
Mhm.
meant for you to savor. Um, but yes, I'm still working and also just taking a lot of time to be with friends and to be with family and all the threads of your life, if you're fortunate, come together. People from your past, like you, suddenly come back in, and you're weaving this beautiful fabric and all the threads of your life as an elder. If you're fortunate enough to
Yes.
rest into your elder years. And I do things online. I have coming up, I put together a 3-part session on how to work with the loving edge of artificial intelligence, as a lot of people are confused about AI right now.
Yes.
So in November, I'm offering a 3-session course on how to do that. Then, with my business partner, well, all my online offerings are with my wonderful business partner, Gila Rosner, who's another mystic and scientist and so creative. We're doing an offering on aging with wisdom, and getting real about aging because it's not for sissies, as the old line goes.
Yes.
And so, Then I'm doing more spiritual mentoring, which is one-on-one work with people who really wanna put a spotlight on their spiritual life. And we
Mhm.
sit together, have talks like you and I are having, but specific to what's going on in their life to deepen it. Because for a lot of people, we go through phases, and sometimes the God of our understanding changes quite dramatically. Sometimes it disappears at all, and we go into a classic dark night like, is there any meaning?
Yeah.
Where is it?
There anybody
So,
here?
yes, is anybody there?
Anybody here?
So I love that work to be
Mhm.
able to sit with people
Yeah.
and, see where they are and what their needs are and what speaks to them so that we can experience together kind of what we're experiencing. Something beautiful is coming through that's beyond either one of us.
Mhm. Well,
Uh,
thank you. Thank you for coming on to the podcast. I feel like it was I don't even wanna say it was a podcast. It feels like it was uh, similar to your website at the bottom of your mentoring page where it's two souls have come together and the third is the divine that has filled the space between us. And I feel like that's much more than a podcast. It's it's a, it's a connection that I have felt since I was, gosh, 27, 28 years old. So this is kind of such an honor and a dream of mine to be able to speak to you, and I know that my mom is sitting here and she's saying, "Ariela, this is amazing."
My mom's here too.
Yes, absolutely. Michelle is for sure here too. They're all sitting here saying, "Isn't this incredible? Look at this."
Well, it was truly a pleasure. You know how we say that sometimes to be polite, but it's
Yeah,
real. The pleasure is very real, and I would love to stay connected with you.
I
And
would
please, please give my love to Baruch.
I will, I will. It was so wonderful seeing you, and I will leave it up to the divine as to how we will connect with each other, but I feel that we will.
All right.
Alrighty. Thank you
All
so
right.
much,
Have a
Joan.
wonderful rest of your day. You are very welcome.
Okay, take care. I was gonna let you know, I'll send you the podcast, if you have any interest in sending it out or you just wanna listen to
Sure.
it, I'll be sending it all over.
Oh, great. How wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll be in touch.
Okay, darling.
Take care.
To be with you. Bye bye.
Bye.